Mr. Gerard here, welcome back to my garage, and in today's video we're going to be hacking up these perfectly good quarter panels. Let's get started. Right, so before I got too far with cutting and everything, I just wanted to put my wheel back on here and just kind of check and see just how much material I really need to remove. I don't really want to remove more than I need to. So what I've done here is I've just jacked up the wheel to kind of check what kind of clearances I've got, and then I went ahead and made a little bit of a mark here to kind of just guide me of where I should remove the material. So now that I've got that all kind of figured out, it's time to cut into this thing. Let's do it. Doubles as a nice little table too. All right, let's take a look. All right guys, so checking out this quarter panel here, you're gonna notice that there's actually two layers. We've got our inner skin here and we've got our outer skin. What we need to do is we need to separate the two. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my grinder. I'm gonna grind just a little slit right here so I can fit my air saw in there. I'm gonna run my air saw along this seam here all the way to this body line. After that, I'm gonna cut roughly 2 to 2.5 inches out of that outside skin. And then I'm gonna cut little slits into that inside skin. That way I can bend it up, and then I'll stitch weld each one of those little pieces. And that should be good enough for what we're doing here. All right guys, here we go. Safety first, as always. Wear your safety glasses, and some gloves are a good idea if you're working with anything that could potentially cut you or fling some stuff in your eyes. So safety first. Let's get it. All right, so obviously I'm having a little bit of trouble with this air saw. There's like some sort of rubber sealant in between these panels, and it's gunking up my blade, making it pretty difficult to maneuver in there. Maybe I'm doing it all wrong. I don't know. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna finish this off with the grinder. I didn't really want to use it, but this air saw is giving me problems. What do you expect? Harbor Freight tools, but maybe it'll work better on this cut up here. I don't know. I may end up just finishing this whole thing off with the grinder. We'll see. I'm a little disappointed, but it is what it is. Live and learn. So I'm gonna keep going. Hopefully I can clean this up a little bit because it's looking like trash. Okay, so I finally got it cut, and that was a pain in the ass. Probably should have just done it all with the grinder to begin with, but I thought I got an air compressor my wife got me for Christmas a couple of years ago, might as well put it to use. So I thought I'd try it. Air saw from Harbor Freight didn't want to work, so I just went at it with a grinder, and holy hell, that is ugly. Good thing I've got an Overfender that's gonna cover most of this horrendous hack job that I've done. So, but you know what? I've got the two pieces separated. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that bottom layer down a little bit so I can get a little more clearance to cut out this top layer. Hopefully I can clean that up, give that a nice clean cut, bend up that underside, throw some tack welds on it, grind it down, and call it a day. This is a little bit more difficult than I had originally imagined, but I'm getting there nonetheless and learning a lot in the process. So bear with me. Hopefully the finished product looks somewhat decent. let's keep going. Okay, so holy crap. Grinder is my best friend. Anyways, I tried to make this work, tried everything I could, but I don't know, maybe I got the wrong blade, maybe I need a coarser blade. I only got 32 TPI, maybe I need something a little more coarse. I don't know, I got my air compressor cranked all the way up. It just doesn't want to run this thing. Maybe it's just because it's Harbor Freight. I don't know, but I thought I'd give it a try, and it didn't really work out. So grinder was the way to go on that. So now I've finally got the two pieces separated. This is the inner layer. This is the outer layer. Now what I got to do is I got to cut some slits into this thing. That way I can bend it up, grind some of this down, or the paint, grind the paint off of this, clean it up a little bit so I can get some welds on there. Stitch weld it up, and then this side will be pretty much done as far as cutting and welding and stuff, and then I'll jump on the other side and do that. So, but let's keep this going, start cutting this thing up a little bit more, clean it up a little bit, see if we can throw some welds at it. All right, so I've got the inner skin all cut up and bent up, ground down. I'm ready to weld. Really, I'm just gonna take it nice and slow. I'm just gonna throw a couple tacks at this. I just need it to seal up so we don't get water in here and make my car all rusty. Even though I do live in the desert, we don't want any moisture in there to cause any sort of problems in the future. So let's seal it up. I've just got my flex core welder from Harbor Freight. Shout out to Harbor Freight, but it gets the job done. With my limited skills and knowledge, I've maybe got like 5 hours of actual time with the torch, so hopefully it doesn't turn out too bad. Let's see what I can do. Let's see how bad I can f this up. Let's go. Alright, so I've got some of the welding done, and it's by no means pretty, but it's working. So I'm going to keep going, keep throwing my little tacks here until I get it all sealed up, and then I'll come through with the grinder and trim off all this excess stuff, and then hit it with some primer so it doesn't rust, and then this will be pretty much done. And then I'll jump over to the other side. Let's keep going. Okay, so after far too long, I finally got something that looks somewhat decent. I'm not 100% satisfied with it, but you know what? For my skill level, I think I did pretty dang good. It took way too long. Anyone who makes this look easy, shout outs to you, because this is far from easy. I'm having quite the time trying to keep from burning through this super thin sheet metal. It's been a tough one for me. But that being said, I am learning a new skill, so it's kind of expected that I would hit some snags, and my finished product isn't quite up to my standards. But as I keep saying, and I'll say it again, I am not a professional, so I'm doing the best that I can with what I got. And you know what? This is going to be covered up anyways, so I may cheat and throw some body filler on here just to fill up the pinholes and kind of make it pretty, but nobody's really gonna see it. It's gonna be underneath the overfender, so, but I'll know what it looks like underneath, so I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But this side is done enough to where I can jump on the other side and hopefully take some lessons that I've learned on this side, apply it to that other side, and make it go a little bit faster. Because I've been at it for, I don't have a watch, but a long time. So let's get started on the next one. Sheesh. All right. All right, so here we are. Some time has gone by, and I've actually gone ahead and done this a couple more times just to get it up to my standards. It was looking pretty ugly before. So I went ahead and redid it a couple more times, and it's looking a lot better now. I just went ahead and sprayed some black paint on there just to cover it up. But speaking of covering up, before I move on to the next side, I actually want to get this thing mounted up with its actual hardware that I'm going to be using. So, and it's going to cover that mess. So out of sight, out of mind. Otherwise, I'll just keep working on it until it's perfect. And let's be honest, it's never going to be perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it up, get it out of my mind. That way I can go ahead and jump onto the other side and get this thing freaking done, because I'm getting impatient. Let's go. Right, so here's what I need for this portion of the job. I got my drill, my riv nut tool, 6mm drill bits, which are for my M4 riv nuts. It's very important that you have the right size drill bit for your riv nut, or otherwise if that hole's too big, that riv nut's just gonna spin, and that's no bueno. I've got my M4 stainless steel hardware with some nylon washers, and that's pretty much all you're gonna need for this portion of it. And then just drill some holes into the quarter panel and the overfender, get it all bolted together, and then I can finally get started on that other side, start chopping that up. Let's go. All right, so I've got a couple holes drilled with the riv nuts already inserted. Just a couple just to get it out of the way for practice, make sure I got my method right. So I've got it all figured out, and it's pretty simple. So I'm just gonna show you how to do it. I got my 6mm drill bit. I've got my pre-drilled hole for my Cleco already drilled. So I'm just gonna open that up and then stick my riv nut in there. Let's go. Now there are two layers. Again, this quarter panel, there's two layers. There's a top layer and an underneath layer, and you have to drill through both, or that riv nut's not gonna sit in there flush. So I've got that drilled through both of them. Just a little test fit. Boom, there you go. It sits flush. And you can kind of tell if you don't get it in there right. That's where the second layer is, about 3/16 of a difference. So there you go. Just wanna make sure you drill through both of them, or else that's not gonna fit. So now we gotta take our little riv nut, threaded insert, thread it onto the riv nut tool, like so. Put our tool in there and squeeze. Nice and gentle. You don't, especially with this smaller M4 mandrel, you don't want to squeeze too tight or it will break. Ask me how I know. And with these tools, these riv nut tools, you can actually set the depth or the range that this plunger actually moves. You can see how it moves. If you twist this in or out, you can set the depth. So I've got it squeezing not very much. It's very slight because this metal is really thin. And this will break. I've done it. So there we go. There's your riv nut. You're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off the rest of these in super fast mode. Let's go. Okay, and there it is. Got all the mounting and cutting done on this one. This side's pretty much done, you know, aside from paint and bodywork, obviously, but that'll be a whole nother video when I do the whole car, so that can wait. I'm ready to get started on the other side. I really like how those M4 bolts turned out. They look like rivets from far away, like from right here, this distance. But then when you get close up on them, and you can see the details, the button head and the washer underneath. It's pretty sick. It's all about the details. And I really like how that came out. Sweet. Stoked on that. Anyways, let's get started on that side. Okay, so here we are finally on the passenger side of the vehicle, and I'm gonna take what I learned on the driver's side and apply it to this side. Hopefully things get done a lot smoother, a lot quicker, and the end product comes out a lot better. First thing I'm gonna try to do, a little bit different than on that side, is I'm gonna try my air saw again. I got a little bit more of a coarse blade. I'm gonna try that, see if that works out. If it doesn't, no biggie. I'll just hack it away with the grinder again. No big deal. So that being said, I'm just gonna set the time lapse and go through the motions on this side, since we kind of worked out all the kinks on the other side. So
then, if you see, on the other hand, that existence is musical in nature, that is to say that it is not serious, it is the play. So the best conductors would be those who played fastest. And there would be composers who wrote only finales. People go to a concert just to hear one crashing chord, because that's the end.
all right, so I'm just about to the point where I can start welding this thing. Got about 1 3/4 inches taken out of the top layer. Got my back layer, got a couple slits in it, and it bent up towards the top layer so I can just weld this seam a little bit. Got this seam cleaned up a little bit. I need to clean it up a little bit more. There's a little bit of gunk in there, but it's looking pretty good. I've learned the fewer slits, the better, I think. It was, it took a little bit more hammering to get it to fold up a little bit, but I think once I get a couple tacks in there, it'll come out a lot cleaner with less cuts. So I'm gonna try that, and hopefully that turns out a lot better. I did learn something though. This car was hit on this quarter panel at some point in its lifetime, and it wasn't reported. I did a Carfax on this thing, and it says it was never in any accidents, but the Bondo here says otherwise. That's all that dust you saw me blowing off this car. Not just paint, it was quite a bit of Bondo and primer. I can see it's at least all the way up to here. So something happened on this quarter panel at some point, so that's interesting, but don't matter anymore. It's getting covered up regardless, so cool. Let's start to weld this thing. All right, got it all welded up, and I will say this side went much better than the other side. I'm actually really happy with the way this side turned out. I think less cuts definitely paid off, and definitely just practice paid off big time. I mean, definitely not perfect. It's definitely all boogered up, but you know what? It's strong. It'll hold. I just need to cut off this excess a little bit and then grind it down a little bit, smooth it out, make it look a bit prettier. But you know what? I'm happy with that. I'm pretty stoked with that. I'm really enjoying the process of learning all this. It's been difficult and challenging, but definitely worth it and satisfying. So yeah, turning out pretty good. I'm liking the way it's turning out. So I just need to trim that off, clean it up a little bit, slap some paint on there, drill my holes, add my rib nuts, and then bolt on the fender, and then I'm ready to start on the hood. That's a whole nother story. We'll get there. One step at a time, baby. One step at a time. Let's keep going. All right, guys, here we go. I got the quarter panel all sealed up, ground down, and I kind of smoothed out a little bit, threw some paint on there just to kind of cover it up. And yeah, it's pretty solid. I'm not worried about any moisture causing any sort of rust in here. It's all sealed up. And I went ahead and I took care of the antenna hole as well. I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I'll keep saying it. I'm not a professional. This is the first time I've done this, but I'm doing okay. I think it'll get the job done, and you know what? It's gonna be covered by the Overfender anyways, so no one's gonna see it. However, that being said, I know what it looks like, and well, obviously you know what it looks like, you're watching the video, but when I come through and do the rest of the body work and take care of all the rest of the dents on the car and stuff, I'll come through here, throw some body filler on it, smooth it out, make it look pretty, even though, like I said, no one's gonna know it's there, but we know. So I'll take care of that when the time's right. That being said, it's time to move on to the next step. I gotta drill some holes for my rib nuts into the body, and then I gotta drill some holes in the quarter panel as well, so, or the overfender, excuse me. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, guys, there we have it. It is done. Both sides are finished. The Overfender install is complete. Thank you, Lord Jesus. That was quite the process, quite the learning process for me. Maybe you guys learned a thing or two as well. Maybe you guys were yelling at your screen the whole time, telling me I was doing it wrong. If that's the case, comment below, dog. You know what to do. In any case, if you enjoyed this video, I've got plenty of more stuff coming out. I got a hood vent that I need to install into an OEM hood. I've got all kinds of maintenance to do on this. I've got all kinds of stuff planned. So if you like Miatas, if you like learning new things, if you like my content, please subscribe. It would mean the world to me, and it gives me motivation to keep making these videos. So I appreciate you guys. Yeah, so until next time, I'm out. Peace. Alrighty. Okay, so here we are finally.